First of all, the petition by the Honorable Kuria Mutata, MP, one of our elected senators in this country, has not come as a surprise to us as members of Committee of Finance and National Planning, because Kuria Mutata has taken every finance bill and every finance act that has been done in the last 5 years to court. So it's the usual of him. So it's nothing surprising. And happily, this time around, he preempted what he was going to do because he actually challenged the bill, the act, which, the whole thing about the principle of justice, that he who comes to law must come with clean hands, so which makes us all question whether he's really coming there with clean hands, because remember, he went to court even before the enactment of the finance bill as an act of parliament, even when, as an elected senator, he had an opportunity of challenging the proceedings of the bill and raising that on the question on the floor of the House, which he never did for the entire course of the bill. And so it's nothing surprising. Finance bill has always been a most litigated piece of legislation in the history of Parliament for the last 15 years. And for him to claim that it provoke or it contravenes a PFM Act, the courts pronounce themselves very well on the matter, on the procedures that are supposed to be followed. And as a result, we had the finance bill actually coming to the House for the VAT reading and being passed before the appropriations bill, which means that we had to approve the revenues before we approve the expenditures, because it's about putting the horse before the cart. And so there is no doubt in our minds that we follow due process of law. His argument about estimates versus revenues, estimates are just estimates. In fact, he puts it rightly, they are estimates. So when they estimate, they estimate. So until the Appropriations Act is passed, it actually puts the real figures into particular votes, and they are now proposed, they are amended at the Committee of Supply, and they are approved during the third reading, and now they go for the President for action. That is when they become expenditures. So before then, they're just proposals. The same thing with the finance bill. We're calling it a bill because they're just proposals. So before, pre-publication, after publication, during public participation, actually during the first, second, up to the third reading, they're just proposals. And they being just proposals, it can go either way. If, for example, one of the issues that he raises about the VAT and fuel, if the nays are more than the A's, and therefore that clause that introduces or that takes the deletion of that clause that takes VAT that takes VAT on fuel to 16%, if that was deleted, it would have consequently meant that we would have had our VAT at 8%. Does it mean then that we will have to do all that he's saying on the bill? It's definitely false. So I have no doubt in my mind that the National Assembly followed the due process. He raises the other issue that there was no concurrence with Senate. So every bill that has come either from the National Assembly or from the Senate has to have the concurrence of both speakers. So the speakers see it and they actually exchange correspondence and say, this particular bill doesn't need to go to the Senate, or this particular bill doesn't need to go to the National Assembly. And we have had concurrence between the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate, saying that the finance bill of 2020 did not have to go to the Senate. And then also in the history for the last 10 years, we have never ever had a finance bill being debated at the Senate. It has never happened. So it would be curious how this would be the first time, more than 10 years after the creation of the Constitution, and we have had all these finance acts, having the finance bill now for the first time ever in the history of new constitutional dispensation going to the Senate. And I think that is why, in the wisdom of both speakers, they looked at the contents of the bill and they concurred that the finance bill of 2020 did not have to go to the Senate. So I'll encourage Okiya Mutata to look at all the other bills, because even when this has been the most debated bill, there has been many other bills that are quite substantial, that even if they affect 10% or 50 or 5% of our Kenyans, or even if they affect 100 Kenyans, they are as important as the finance bill. So it would be important for him to also check what other bills have originated in the Senate and haven't had to come to the National Assembly, and how many bills have actually originated from the National Assembly and have not had to go for debate at the Senate. I think that is the only time when we can fairly discuss and agree they should have gone to the Senate or not. But as per the current procedure, and again, there's even a court, there's actually even an ongoing court process on the same, on what bills should go to the Senate and what shouldn't. But there is a general concurrence, but that every bill that's that originates from the either National Assembly or from the Senate, either from the National Assembly or from Senate, to plainly put from either parliament, then there must be concurrence of the speakers. And for this, we've seen concurrence between the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate, saying that this did not have to go to the Senate.
Another issue that he is raising is the
right to having affordable housing is actually a Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights, and if you look at all the other Bill of Rights, whether it's right to security, right to every other right, is actually the function of the national government. And there should not be any question about that. However, the same constitution talks about the collaboration between national government and county government. That's why, even though constitutionally health is a devolved function, you find particular hospitals being operationalized at the national level. You find the issue of public health being operationalized from the national level. So even when health is a devolved function, so there is nothing that stops collaboration between national government and county government in terms of execution of roles that are either belongs to national government or from the county governments. And actually, as we speak, we have 42 counties across the country that have actually signed a memorandum of understanding between themselves and the State Department of Housing, the county governments giving land to national government for use in their affordable housing projects. We have seen, even though water is a devolved function, we've seen dams being set up out in counties. We see governors running up at the Ministry of Water asking for dams in their counties. We've seen national government giving support to hospitals, and even a very good example would be the medical equipment releasing system, where the national government has actually entered an agreement with a donor to have medical equipment being used by county hospitals, but who is paying for them? The national government. So this is not the first time you're seeing collaboration between the county government and the national government in performance of functions that support Kenyans. And so let us be fair, let us be consistent. And let's say, if we are going to have Kenyans access their human rights, their Bill of Rights, including the right to have affordable housing, and both the national government and the county government find out a good legal working framework, that what has been agreed between the 42 county governments and the national government on how to do the affordable housing, let nobody take that from Kenyans.
Finally, the acts start being implemented tonight. Maybe what next from the government side after the injunction from the High Court?
Of course, we a law-abiding country. We respect that arm of government, which is the judiciary. But the good thing is that we saw this coming, and we were ready. So see, in courts, we have all the documents necessary. We have, even at the committee stage, leave alone even at the National Assembly stage or as a Kenya Kwanza government, even the Committee of Finance and National Planning had to study all the court rulings that were delivered in the last 5 years. Because finance Act has always been the most litigated pieces of legislation. And there is no time for the last 10 years that Finance Act has never been taken to court. It has always been litigated. So we saw this coming and you're ready. So see you in court.